Well, now we come to our third storyteller, and I can feel he's just so excited to be coming up on stage. This is my best friend, my partner in crime for 26 years. I'm not very good on how long we've been. 27 years. Oh, it just feels like 26. Please welcome to the stage the very funny, the very nervous, and the very virgin storyteller, Ron Bendall.
This is the story about how my career as a race caller was pipped at the post. But let's start at the start. Because my father had died before I was born, my sister and I were brought up by my mother and my grandmother, and both of them were sports tragics. And they instilled in me a great love of sport. As a kid, I played rugby league, rugby union, cricket, basketball, tennis. I swam, and I ran. And unfortunately, I wasn't very good at any of them. So I thought I'd become the next best thing, a sports writer. And when the job of the sports editor at the Gladstone Observer in central Queensland was advertised, I applied with alacrity. And I got the job. Turns out I was the only applicant. And when I got to Gladstone, I found out why. Gladstone had started life as a peaceful fishing village, but by the 1970s when I got there, the abattoirs, which had been its main source of employment, was no longer there, and in its place was a three-quarter built alumina refinery that was going to be the biggest in the world. The fishing vessels that had been on Auckland Inlet were now replaced by massive great big ships fed by a huge coal loader which serviced the coalfields of central Queensland. And powering all this industry was a massive half-built powerhouse which the Queensland government was building, which was going to be the biggest in Australia. So Gladstone was a bustling, thriving construction town, and but ugly. Population, 70% men, 30% women. From someone who'd been brought up in an all-female household, I thought I was in heaven. We used to drink beer all week. On Saturday we used to go to the races at Ferguson Park, and on Sunday we used to watch the rugby league. And the best part about it, as sports editor, I was paid to do it. It didn't take me long to get into the swing of things. After about 3 weeks, I bought myself a pork pie hat, a couple of racehorses, and Ferguson Park was my second home. Now, Ferguson Park does sound rather grand. I know you're thinking Royal Randwick, Rosehill Gardens, or even Flemington, where the Melbourne Cup will be held this Tuesday. Instead, think the Pro-Hart painting of an outback race meeting. The stables were corrugated iron. The buildings were all ramshackle. We had a grandstand, but that had been condemned, so nobody was allowed to sit in it. Dress was, de rigueur was stubbies, thongs and singlets. For more formal occasions like the Melbourne Cup, we replaced the singlets with a T-shirt. But one thing Gladstone did do very well was produce race callers. Wayne Wilson, who's now one of the best race caller in Queensland, he started his career there. John Curtis, who went on to be the secretary of the Newcastle Jockey Club, also called the races at Ferguson Park. When I was there, Terry Spargo was the race caller. You can now hear Terry on all the racing TV stations calling the Queensland races. And when Terry wasn't available, a chap called Ray Martin, no, not the Ray Martin, used to come down from Rockhampton and fill in for him. I was having a beer one afternoon with Terry and Ray, and Neville Warburton, the president of the Turf Club, came up to me, sat down and joined us and said, "Now, if these two blokes were ever away, you'd be able to call the races for us, wouldn't you?" And of course, showing off in front of my newfound friends, I said, "Yes, of course I could, Neville, not a problem, mate," thinking that's never going to happen. Now, one of the racehorses I bought was a mare called Mrs. Thatcher. And like her namesake, she was very feisty and quite capable. The biggest trouble we had was getting a decent price about her, and we thought she could win. So we decided we'd play ducks and drakes with her. We took her up to Rockhampton, entered her in much stronger company and over distances that we knew that she couldn't win. And then we brought her back to Gladstone, ready for a big first-up coup. So not to alert the bookmakers that we thought she could win, I asked my best friend Bernie Scott, who never went to the races, to place the money on for me. I'd drawn out $400, out of my bank account and gave it to him. And it was while I was watching the horses parade and wondering how Bernie was getting on in the betting ring that Neville Warburton came up to me and said, "Have you heard the news?" I said, "What's that?" He said, "You're calling the races today." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, Terry's on holidays." I said, "Well, what about Ray?" He said, "Well, there's been a flash flood, the road from Rockhampton's cut and he can't make it, so you've got to do the job." And I said, "OK." In the meantime, Bernie Scott came up to me and said, mate, I got you 5 to 1. I'm thinking, 5 to 1? That's $2,000, 2,000 smackaroonies. And like C.J. Dennis said in his poem, I had the bloomin' money in me hand. Well, I had more in my hand. I'd already spent it. And started out with a big party at the Royal Hotel that night. And so I climbed the stairs to the broadcasting tower. And when I got there, I turned on the mic. No response. Dead. Nothing. So we called the course electrician. While the electrician was working on the microphone, I went downstairs, legged my jockey Lloyd Berry onto Mrs. Thatcher, wished him good luck, and I went back and the electrician said, "No good, mate, it's not going to work." And I thought, "You beauty, I got out of this, didn't I?" Anyway, Neville had other ideas. He said, "You can call the races from the presentation mic in front of the secretary's office." And I said, "But Neville, once the horses come round the home turn, the crowd will stand up and I won't be able to see a thing." He said, "I've thought of that. I've got a ladder. You can sit on the roof of the secretary's office and call them from up there." So, OK. So I climbed the ladder, perched myself on top of the secretary's office's roof. I've got my binoculars in one hand, microphone in the other. I'm juggling a race book on my knees, about to make my debut as a race caller. And I went something like this. The horses are moving into the barrier. For some reason all race callers have to talk like that. They're moving into the barrier. Mrs. Thatcher goes in, followed by Greta's Gold, Magic Potion. Here's Ronnie and I'm Adorable, and Pentridge is the last one to be loaded into the gates. The starter, Mr. Billy Hempseed, lines his platform, reaches for the lever. The red light's on, that changes to green, the green light's flashing, they're ready to go. Billy pulls the lever, they're off, they're racing. And Mrs. Thatcher goes to the front, followed by Here's Ronnie, I'm Adorable, Magic Potion, Greta's Gold, and bringing up the rear is Pentridge. And they come to the 600 mark. And Lloyd Berry explodes to the lead on Mrs. Thatcher. Come on, Lloydie, keep it going, son. Come on, Lloyd, go, boy, go, 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 go. They come to the home turn. Mrs. Thatcher's still in front. You little beauty, through the home straight. Lloyd Berry explodes the lead on Mrs. Thatcher. Oh my God, here comes Pentridge. For God's sake, Lloyd, hit her! Hit her again, Lloyd! Pull the lead! The Lloyd! Hit her! Give her another one, Lloyd! They come to the home front. Mrs. Thatcher's in front. Pentridge is closing fast. Mrs. Thatcher wins. You little beauty! Pentridge is second. And ladies and gentlemen, I haven't got a clue who come third. And the funny thing is, they never asked me to call the races again.
Oh, don't encourage him. Stop right there. All that laughter and clapping must be taken from the podcast. I want him to deliver it in stone cold silence. Well done, Ron. Well done. That's great. All right. I'm exhausted. Oh, God.